So I've been on a Game of Thrones binge lately, and if you know me, I like to look at the pointless meaning behind entertainment. So I looked at Game of Thrones and adult entertainment, and these two forms of content have taught me something. They taught me that it's okay to love your sister. Hear me out. The adult film industry is most watched in America, and there's this rising genre that's taken the American population by storm, and that is stepsisters. Stepbrothers. It has been one of the most watched categories in the past few years, and I guess it makes sense. They aren't related by blood, so that makes it okay, right? And then we also get Game of Thrones that teaches us a valuable lesson that we don't get to choose who we love. We love whoever the good Lord intended, even if it's your sister. With these two major players in the world of entertainment, there's no doubt that this has already stuck its incest-infested hands in deep with Japanese culture, specifically with anime. There's no loss of anime that is out there that gives the male viewer this fantasy of having a hot older sister who's down bad. And the majority of these shows are, how do I put this nicely? Absolute dog shit. But within that smelly pile of feces, there are all those masterpieces that give you more than just this beautiful love between two family members. They give you action, alien robots. Yeah, that's about it. I've never had a sister before, and I don't think I'll ever get one, so for people like me, living vicariously through anime characters is the only way we can feel what they feel. And with that, I give you Freezing is an ecchi anime set in 2065 where humans are at war with some aliens known as Novas. To combat this alien force, they got humans and converted them into Pandoras who hold the ability to control superhuman powers. These superhuman powers are called stigmatas, and we find out later that these are the power of the Nova. Our journey to find ourselves a hot older sister begins with Kazuha Aoi, who is being transported from West genetics to East genetics. He's transferring schools because his sister Kazuha Aoi went there and she sacrificed herself in the 8th grade Nova War fighting one level S threat. So Kazuya wants to transfer to the school to keep remembering his sister or something. I don't know why, they didn't really say, but I'm assuming he wants to be like his sister. So he gets picked up by the school rep in a plane and she provides us with the exposition that we need. Pandoras are women, they have stigmatas which are weapons, they have increased speed, strength, healing abilities, and endurance. Women are given a certain amount of stigmata at birth, which basically means how strong they are. And these Pandoras need a boy called a limiter to use freezing abilities to essentially slow down the Novas so the Pandoras can kill it. Pretty straightforward. But the most important thing that she said was that
all the second-year Pandoras will be looking for partners among the underclassmen, so one of them might ask you to be their limiter.
Why do they pick from the underclassmen?
An excellent question.
they're virgins. When an upper-class Pandora chooses a fresh, ripe young man to be his big sister, they have to perform a baptism. And I'm not talking about this kind of baptism. I'm talking about this kind of baptism. Either way, these boys about to drown. Kazuha lands and hears an explosion, and this is where we get to see the main Pandora, Satelliter El Bridget. She is known as the Untouchable Queen because when she was younger, someone touched her unjustifiably, and she gets that same feeling when people touch her. Oh yeah, and she also beat the shit out of a limiter at her old school for touching her. Satelliter is fighting in a carnival, which is basically a battle royale, when Ingrid comes crashing through the roof wearing nothing. Her nipples are hard as shit, and don't worry fellas, Satelliter comes in after her and Kazuha's like,
It's you, isn't it? Kazuha! You're still alive!
Satelliter does this crazy 180, causing Kazuha to motorboat cry into her milk cartons. Now, like I said, he thought this girl right here was his big sister. I think I know why he hugged her like that though and didn't think anything of it. So before Kazuha left for the 8th grade Nova War, Kazuha walked in on her changing. He saw all her good bits and he reminds us time and time again that this is his last memory of her. Yo, Money's last memory of his sister, and the only one he remembers apparently is of her butt ass naked staring out a window. Bro, when this dude goes up and hugs his sister though, her titties are like resting on top of his little 8-year-old head. This shit was so fucking stupid. So Satelliter loses because of this, and Ingrid is officially the new number 1 of the second years. So Kazuha wants to go apologize, but every time he does, there's this really dramatic moment of him grabbing the Untouchable Queen, and everyone freaks the fuck out. At the same time, every time this happens, someone tries to fight her and she gets put into solitary confinement every single time. But there is some great character development happening. See, when Satelliter gets touched by Kazuha, she doesn't feel all those nasty things. She feels real tingly down under. So fast forward to episode 4 and some of the third years want to fight Satelliter, and again she refuses Kazuha's offer to help, but he helps anyways and helps her win. And yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about this show. After watching all 12 episodes for the second time, I can wholeheartedly say this show wasn't as bad as I remembered. When I first watched this when I was 14, I just remembered ass and titties, but there was actually a little bit more to it than just that. There were actually 2 plots. Crazy, right? Oddly enough, this show actually has a decent amount of substance to it as soon as you break that 8-episode gap. So plot number 2. In episode 5, a new transfer student named Rana comes to school and she has no idea how to be a Pandora. Rana as a character is fine, I guess. Her Volt weapon would have been cool if she was the only one to use them. The only black person in the show also uses them. They should have given all the main characters their own weapons, but I'm just titpicking at this point. At this point, Satellizer finally decides to let Kazuya be her limiter, and he's going to her dorm room when he's ambushed by some second years. The first years are getting their ass whooped, and Kazuya uses his freezing ability, which causes Rana's stigma to shudder with excitement. This is getting her all hot and bothered. So Rana pulls up and beats the shit out of the second years and knows that Kazuya's her destiny, and she essentially just wants to drown him in that. And this is where the love triangle is formed. Rana wants him because she trembles when he uses his ability, and Satellizer wants him because they can touch and she doesn't get all scared. Thankfully for us, this weird beef only lasts like one episode. Rana still tries her damnedest to fuck Kazuya, but my boy holds strong in the face of adversity. Satellizer and Rana are fighting when they're interrupted by some third years, and these third years don't like Satellizer because I guess she's too strong. Okay, so let me take a step back. So what I've gathered from this whole section of the story is this. The upperclassmen don't like her because she has no friends, she's lonely, she doesn't like being touched, she's that weird emo kid. Does that remind you of anyone? A common theme of this show is that the third years are always on some bullshit, and they are. This was the biggest gripe with the show that I had. So there are these alien Nova Iron giant ass threats who can destroy all humanity, but these girls are worried about how strong this girl is. What kind of sense does that make?
Remove all of her stigmata and destroy them.
Because she possesses a threat? Like, nigga, to who? The aliens? To the school who could be attacked by aliens? Like, it makes no sense. So after the fight with the third years, Satellizer and Rana's beef dies down in that one episode. The third years go back to their leader Elizabeth, who is the leader of this hate train on Satellizer, and she gets told by the class president that
We can't simply think of her as a second year. Satellizer may be one of the strongest Pandora here. Perhaps you should keep that fact in mind the next time you try to tell her what to do.
And just like that, we get a prom episode. Yeah, that was the entire other plot of the show, and guess what? That took up to 8 episodes. The pacing of the show is terrible to say the least. The first episode of any show should hook the viewer and get them invested with this world that you created. However, this show doesn't get remotely interesting until episode 5. I was struggling to get through the first 4 episodes again. There was no substance, the plot was basically non-existent, the threat of Novas didn't feel like they were even real. Sure, they mentioned the 8th grade Nova War here and there, but we don't see any of them. These first 4 episodes were basically getting to know Kazuya and the hierarchy of West genetics. This felt more like a high school drama, which would have been fine honestly if they didn't give us this insane opening story about the Nova killing everyone. If the Nova were just always there rather than this rare occurrence, the high school drama would be increasingly more enjoyable. If there were Nova battles in at least 2 of these 4 episodes, even if it was just like small Class C Novas where, I don't know, some of the third years and the recent graduates can go fight, it would keep the viewer's attention just a little bit longer. Hell, if I'm being honest, I completely forgot there were aliens in this show because all the girls keep boxing each other. Watching these opening episodes, it felt like they were training to go fight East Genetics in a tournament or some shit, and the ranking system that they had was to see what place it would be in and who they would fight against. The limiters haven't done anything yet this entire show besides watch the girls get stripped naked in fights. That's literally it. In episode 9, this is where we learn everything about Novas, their power that they have, what their goal is, but they never really give us the answer to why. I'm assuming they want water or something. Honestly, I really don't know. Apparently, I don't know anything. So anyway, you got the 3 main characters I talked about, Kazuya, Satellizer, and Rana. Rana felt pointless in the entire show. If she wasn't around, then the show would carry on exactly how it was to begin with, except they would have Satellizer pull some other bullshit out of her ass. And speaking of Satellizer, I've never seen a character in such a short span of time have this many power-ups. Whenever she fought somebody, she copied their move and perfected it within minutes. And if she didn't and was going to lose, well, it's time for a power-up. This causes 0 character development. Her whole thing is she doesn't want to lose, so she just tries really hard. But having her lose and humbling her would actually humanize her a little bit. The last of the main characters is Kazuya, and honestly, I didn't hate him as bad as I thought I was going to. And honestly, he's not as dense as I was expecting. They made him kind and more gentleman-like, which makes you feel like these girls would actually want to be with this guy instead of forcing them onto him. But just like most anime from this era, he's overpowered in his own way. Without being baptized, he can still produce freezing areas that are stronger than everyone's, which is fine, but he literally Deus Ex Machinas almost every single situation, which I call hacks, but hey, plot. So outside of the 3 main characters, I will say the third years were also kind of interesting. Their whole little schoolgirl theme to get Satellizer KO'd was fun. The girls are all cool, they gave them their own personalities which I thought helped the story, but in reality they were just there for filler till the climax of the show. They were just more fan service if you got tired of looking at the same blonde and blue hair for too long. The school president was the only one who really had anything productive to do with the show, and I ain't gonna cap, she kind of a baddie.
The unparalleled monster.
The Novas are probably the most interesting thing in this show, especially from the art design standpoint. They look sick and they're really strong, but they have some level 1 abilities. They have strong tape ability, they have reverse freezing ability, they have shoot my hand ability. You get the point. Speaking of the Novas, I got to mention the fights in this show because there were fights in almost every episode, but that doesn't mean they were good. These fights are the typical anime moments that you see. They fly around, hit once, one gets the upper hand, the other pulls out a secret weapon or another ability or something. Honestly, the most interesting part of the fights is when the girls' limiters put a freezing area out, and then the Pandoras would summon their Nova weapons. They would come just a little. And a lot of the girls have BTSM weapons like chains with ball gags. So I've been shitting on this show this whole time, and I think it's time for a segment I like to call, the good. The one thing that I thought was interesting that probably went by the wayside for a lot of people was the fact that every character was from a different country. Their names were good indicators of this, but honestly, every single character looked exactly the fucking same. The only difference was their hair color. So I think it's time that we play a little game. I'm gonna show you 2 Pandoras and I want you to guess where they're from. Ready? Okay, you need a little hint? Okay, so the one on the left is Ingrid Bernstein and the one on the right is Chiffon Fairchild. Still can't get it? Well, Ingrid is from Germany and Chiffon is from Canada. And by their look, they could literally be sisters. But either way, it was cool to see them have different nationalities coming together. A+. Why do I think this is the best ecchi anime of all time? Well, it was the one that I found the most enjoyment from. I wouldn't recommend watching this in Japanese because the English voice acting for Arthur alone made me laugh more times than I can count.
What was that all about?
It's called being whipped.
I also think that after the first, 7 episodes, when the finale is finally approaching, that you feel like the wait is over. Sure, it wasn't the greatest climax of all time, but hey, you watched a show about 17-year-old girls fighting till they're naked. What did you expect? I will say this, I know this is a harem ecchi anime, so expecting there to be great fight scenes, great character development was probably not something to be expected, but I did have some expectations that it would give me something more than just naked girls the whole time, cause after seeing so many different titties, you kind of just brush them off to the side and it leaves you wanting more from the show, and honestly that was its downfall. Either way, if you like ecchi shows, I say watch it. You won't get much plot, or character development, or quality music, or good sound design, or relatable characters, or interesting side characters, or an interesting world, but hey, I'm sure you can still enjoy the little things.